What's its purpose? TILA requires lenders to make disclosures that allow consumers to compare the costs of making a purchase using credit from different lenders, and to compare the cost of using credit with the cost of using cash. How does it affect real estate sales? Mortgage lenders must follow TILA disclosure requirements. The statute is implemented through the rules codified in Regulation Z, which applies to all advertising that promotes credit. For the licensee, this means any real estate advertisements that include credit terms. When and how will a real estate professional encounter or be obliged by the requirements related to this act? Regulation Z covers all of the ins and outs about who, when, and what needs to happen to properly disclose credit in an advertisement. In general, the goals are to make credit information clear and conspicuous to consumers, and to allow informed decision-making. An ad can show the APR without requiring all of the other credit terms to be disclosed. That's because the APR by itself gives consumers a simple way to compare loans. But if certain other trigger terms are included in the ad, this would require the full disclosure of all terms. These trigger terms are down payment, payment amount, number of payments, interest rate other than APR. These trigger terms only apply if the ad states specific numbers. If the ad simply mentions financing in a general way, such as low down payment or easy financing, no additional disclosure is required. In addition to the advertising rules, lenders must also provide consumers with a disclosure statement within 3 days of making their loan application. This disclosure must include the actual annual interest rate on the loan, the APR, and any finance charges that apply. For borrowers who are either refinancing or obtaining a new loan on their current residence, the disclosure statement must also include the right to rescind up to 3 days after closing on the loan. Federal legislation in context. Administrative Procedure Act, 1946. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt created several new federal agencies as part of the New Deal during the Great Depression. This act, which provides oversight and regulation to agencies and their roles, was an effort to balance the potential for a too powerful federal government. Truth in Lending Act, TILA 1968. Part of the Consumer Credit Protection Act, this requires full disclosure of the terms and conditions of credit. Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA 1974. Eliminates kickbacks and referral fees among settlement service providers to make settlement more understandable and affordable for consumers. Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, HMDA 1975. Requires documentation to show that lenders are serving the housing needs of their communities. Equal Credit Opportunity Act, ECOA 1974. Enacted in response to discriminatory practices by lenders, requires lenders to treat all credit applicants equally according to their creditworthiness, not according to characteristics such as religion or race. Community Reinvestment Act, CRA 1977. Created in response to the practice of redlining, lenders' refusal to finance housing in specific minority-based neighborhoods. CRA has been revised multiple times since its initial passage. Housing and Economic Recovery Act, HERA 2008. Designed to address the subprime mortgage crisis. Provisions included the Safe Mortgage Licensing Act and the Mortgage Disclosure Improvement Act. American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, ARRA 2009. Stimulus package created as a response to the economic crisis. Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, 2010. Response to the financial crisis that started in 2007. Created the CFPB and intended to create stricter regulation of the financial services industry. Moved RESPA under the newly created CFPB and strengthened enforcement of RESPA. The Administrative Procedure Act, 1946. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt created several new federal agencies as part of the New Deal during the Great Depression. Some feared that this would lead to a too powerful federal government. The Administrative Procedure Act balances that power by regulating agencies and their roles. The Act establishes the process and procedures for how federal administrative agencies may propose and establish regulations. Specifically, the Act requires agencies to keep the public informed of their organization, procedures, and rules. Provides for public participation in the rulemaking process. Establishes uniform standards for the conduct of formal rulemaking and adjudication. Defines the scope of judicial review. Although real estate professionals may not directly be bound by the requirements of this act, because so many real estate regulations are enforced by federal agencies, like HUD, licensees should understand how federal agencies are required to operate and what their powers are.